Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Calls show. This is your 2021 Palmetto DFS Tactics show. Before we begin, I know that some of you have reached out and let me know that there was some visual issues with the data dive from Monday night. I apologize. I'm still trying to get used to the software and the inability to coordinate or use the same visual effects and manipulations when I go from an Excel spreadsheet to a web page. So I apologize for that. Hopefully those have been smoothed over for this show. But please let me know if not, and I will continue to work and tweak a little bit so that way I can give you, the viewer, the best experience I can. Hopefully the information has been entertaining and useful for you. I've got my Gatorade here. Where's it at? There we are. Got my Gatorade ready. As always, all stats are provided by fantasynational.com. Amazing resource. I will never ever take credit for gathering all this. So let's get into the 2021 Palmetto DFS Tactics show. So when I did the initial research, let me bring up the web page here. Yeah. So when I did the initial research show on Sunday night, I began to think that this was going to be a wedge type course. It is long. It's about almost 7,700 yards. And when I did the hole by hole research, if you'll remember from Sunday evening, because this is a brand new event, this is replacing the Canadian Open this year due to Canada's restrictions with COVID-19 and such. The Congaree Golf Club stepped up and is having the inaugural Palmetto Championship. I haven't heard if this is going to be a mainstay or an addition to the tour schedule. I don't know. I know the Canadian Open will be back eventually. I just don't know when. But for 2021, we are in South Carolina for the Palmetto Championship the week before the U.S. Open. And if you remember from Sunday night, I kind of did a hole-by-hole overview just because I did not know anything about Congaree Golf Club. As far as I know, it has not been used on a professional level, PGA Tour Champions, LPGA, or Korn Ferry. So I wanted to dig in and see how the course looked, at least from satellite view, kind of get a layout of the land. We've discussed that apparently it is fast and firm. There's a lot of natural waste area, which is apparently like Kiowa Island in that there are not a lot of bunkers, so players can ground their club in these waste areas, and it is an extremely long course. However, there are a couple holes that I believe you can take advantage of, but I think it's a wedge course because there are at least one, maybe two absolute 3-shot par fives. Even the longest hitters on tour, I believe, would be playing it as a 3-shot hole, which is going to neutralize the distance advantage quite a bit, in my opinion. I could be very wrong about this come tomorrow, but the way I see it, I think it's going to be a wedge player's course. Like I've mentioned, it's a links style course. I have read some quotes that running it up to the greens is absolutely in play. A lot like what you see over in the U.S. the Open Championship a lot, and Scottish Open and events over in Europe. Traditional link style course. There's not a lot of water on this course. It does come into play about 4 or 5 holes. But if you remember from Sunday night, I was going through a hole by hole, and I'll have a little bit more analysis as I've dug into it even further this week. But for the DFS portion, this ended up being what I have used when I am trying to generate my lineups. As always, I'm going to value strokes gained approach. I just want good iron hitting players. The reason being, I believe it's a more stable statistic. If you're hitting your irons well, in theory, you're not leaving yourself with as long a putts. You're giving yourself more chances at birdies, which, obviously is going to end up being lower in the actual tournament, therefore giving you more points. But you get more points for a birdie at least in DraftKings. You get more points for a birdie than you lose having a bogey. So you really want birdies. You want guys that can go really low. So I'm always going to value strokes gained approach. There is validity to valuing putting in certain circumstances. I don't do it very often because it is a fickle statistic. I've harped on that for the past week, but this is my opinion, but I'm trying to help you all. And by no means am I the only source of information you should seek out. I'm glad that you think enough of me to value my input, but we're all trying to win. We're all trying to make money. There's a lot of great content out there. Go search for it, especially with your money on the line. Don't listen to just one person. Go get multiple pieces of information. Listen to all different types of advice. I could be way off, and other pundits are saying you need all the distance in the world. It's just how I am seeing the course being played, especially since it is a brand new event on a brand new course that hasn't been played. And honestly, the course in its actuality is brand new. It was built in 2017 or 18, so it is a brand new venue. But getting back to the DFS, I'm always going to value strokes gained approach. That's what I believe in. Being a wedge course, in my opinion, and I don't want to use the poker term all in, but I'm heavily pot committed on this being a wedge course. I have actually valued around the green quite heavily, 15% or so in this data model, and I could still end up tweaking it a little bit before tonight and tomorrow morning when the lineups are due. But being a wedge course, I really think you're going to have to be able to play around the green. And because there's not a lot of bunkers in the natural, in the defined term sense, I didn't do much of sand saves. Actually, I don't think I did. No, I didn't do any sand saves. I just purely went for around the green because there is a difference. Sand saves is specifically out of sand. Since this is not bunkers, I chose to go around the green. Maybe that's an oversight on my part. We'll see. Putting is all. You're going to have to putt well to win a tournament. I put it at 5%. Opportunities gained means how many realistic chances above the field you gave yourself to score eagle, birdie, so on and so forth. Bogey avoidance, how well this stat to me, and I could be wrong, kind of ties in well with scrambling. How well you're able to avoid putting squares on the scorecard. How well are you able to avoid big numbers? How well are you able to not drop strokes in your round? Having no idea on this course, I believe I will usually put some measure of bogey avoidance or opportunities gains or some combination on a course that I'm not very familiar with. This certainly qualifies. I don't know how difficult it is going to be to hit the fairways here. Some holes look fairly wide, but maybe it is difficult because it's supposed to be firm, fast and firm. So I put fairways and greens at 10%. Greens, obviously, if you're hitting greens in regulation, you're giving yourself better chances at birdies. Scrambling, kind of with the strokes around the green, and scrambling and bogey avoidance. How well are you able to avoid big numbers? How well are you able to keep your scorecard intact? And then, because this is a wedge course in my eyes, I did 2 of the 3 wedge distances, and I chose these 2 for a specific reason. I'll get to that here in a little bit. But when I ran the data model, this is for the past. Oh, this is only the time frame of last 12 months, the last 36 rounds. And this is why Fantasy National is such an amazing tool. You can customize this however you want. If you wanted to look at just the past, say, 12 rounds, it'll update and change the rankings on the fly like that. Or maybe you wanted to look at a custom date range. Maybe you only wanted to look at summer events because this is a summer event. Just an amazing tool. Amazing tool. But I default to usually the last calendar year, last 12 months, and last 36 rounds. I'm a big proponent in the regression to the mean, stabilizing the data. That is not necessarily the end-all be-all. There are plenty of times where you want to go by current form, last 8 rounds, 12 rounds, 4 rounds. But this is where I generally start, at least, with my rankings. And this week, it's kind of unfortunate. Normally they have updates. I don't know what's going on at Fantasy National this week. Doug Gim is actually not in the tournament. So normally that there would be a WD here or some kind of information to let you know that that player is not playing this week. There are 5 that I have seen in the spreadsheet or in the website here that aren't playing. Doug Gim is one and happens to be my number 1 ranked player per these attributes. Siwoo Kim is another. Charlie Hoffman's another. Brandon Grace is a 4th. And the 5th is Kyle Stanley. So all 5 that I know that are not playing this week are in my top 17. So I don't know what that means. Looks like I could be in a little bit more trouble for DFS, but you make do. Sandwiched so 3 of the 4 are not playing. Sandwiched in between them is the number 1 player in the world, the most expensive player in the field. Like I said, he's the number 1 player in the world for a reason. It's Dustin Johnson. He is, he's playing fair. He's playing okay, but he's tuning up for a major. And Sunday night, when I wondered why him and Brooks Koepka would be playing in an event like this the week before a major, it kind of dawned on me earlier this week that Dustin Johnson's from the Carolinas. I can't remember if it's South or North Carolina, but he's from the Carolinas. This is quote unquote a home course for him. I don't think he's a member here. I don't know, but I can understand why if you're going to play something or play an event before a major, you would do it close to home and then head out towards the major. So that makes a lot of sense to me why Dustin Johnson's here. I don't know anything about sponsorship situations. I know Dustin Johnson is sponsored by RBC, so the RBC Heritage at Harbortown, the RBC Canadian Open, which isn't being played this year, so I understand there are probably contractual obligations that some of these guys attend some events. I don't know of anything here, but on the surface level, I can understand that it's kind of a home game for Dustin Johnson. And he's number 2 in my model, number 1 of the players that are playing. I have tried to star the top players in the field based on my rankings, and this is why you should absolutely invest in FantasyNational.com. Use your own rankings. That way you can comment below and tell me how much of an idiot I am and what didn't work for me, or hopefully vice versa, what I've done well and you tweaked a little bit to win some big money. So Dustin Johnson's number 1 in the field for me that are playing this week. Lucas Glover kind of surprised me, but it makes a lot of sense. You look at his numbers across the board; they're very, very good. Maybe one middling. It just seems like his worst statistic of the things that I valued this week are wedges between this distance. He seems pretty bad at it, but he is stellar across the board on all the other ones, particularly around the green. And being a wedge course, I think this is 15% weight in this model, and he's the 6th best in this field at it. That's why he comes up so high. Kind of surprised me, but is someone who's not necessarily he's not far removed from playing excellent golf. He made the cut at Memorial top 40. He lost a bajillion strokes on approach, but he played pretty well otherwise. Then the week before, a top 10 at the Charles Schwab. Let's see. Yeah, you all can see the putting. That's the end of it. Loses around the green, but gained on approach, gained everywhere else, top 10. Miscut at the Wells Fargo, Valspar, you can kind of go on, but he's got 2 top 10s in the past, 2 months? A top 20 right before that. Only one miscut. Lucas Glover has, subtly been playing some pretty decent golf. And then I think you had to go back to 2019. He's not that far removed from being one of the best golfers on tour. Let's see, 3M Open. Yep, at the bottom there. So you've got from the 3M Open. I just had it there. You had a 7th, a 10th, top 20, another 7th, a 9th. He's not, top 20 and flirting with it for a month straight. So he's. It shouldn't be surprising to me, but it kind of was. Now, having said that, Bermuda, which these greens are Bermuda, from what I've read, at Congaree, Bermuda is his worst putting surface, so you should probably take that into account. We'll get into the wind later. I did a little bit of the wind preview Sunday night. I'll do it again tonight. We'll see what the wind looks like. But Lucas Glover surprised me as my second best player that's playing in the field this week. Jason Duffner quietly has been playing pretty well too. He is ball striking it amazingly. 16th in strokes gained approach. Around the green and putting is cover your eyes. But otherwise, other than that one statistic, just kind of like Lucas Glover, he's got one bad statistic, and otherwise he's been playing pretty darn well. So Jason Duffner's up there for me. HV3 is just, he's been very good for quite a while now. Let's see. Made the cut at Memorial, which is not an easy event. Did well at Charles Schwab. Missed some putting. Missed off the tee, which he normally doesn't do. You'll see here, he missed 1.1 off the tee at the Charles Schwab, and there's a lot of green before that. So I'm willing to bet this was a little bit of an outlier. Maybe not. But he was second at Harbortown at the RBC Heritage. You can see here, even though he lost, that was the other week, he lost on the tee. He was lights out that week. Made seemingly every putt. Great around the green. Ball struck the hell out of it. And that's why he was second. He's very quietly been playing some pretty good golf. He just hasn't had a lot of high finishes because he's had a bugaboo at at the PGA Championship. He played amazing at Kiowa. Couldn't make a putt. And that's why I always will think putting is a bit of a fickle statistic, because if you putt great at a tournament or even in a round, it's going to mask a lot of deficiencies that you may have had on that day. Whereas if you putt terribly, it's going to exacerbate your scorecard because you just couldn't make a putt where you actually didn't play that bad. And that's what the case was here at the PGA. Harold Varner played great. So Harold Varner's definitely somebody I'm looking at this week in DFS, especially considering the price. And I'll have the prices here on a spreadsheet momentarily, but I'm just giving you a kind of a quick overview here of who kind of pops in my model. Terrell Hatton, no explanation needed. Probably one of the top 4 players in the field, top 10 in the world. Brooks Koepka, no introduction needed. Fitzpatrick's a great young Euro, going to be a part of the Ryder Cup. He's a very good player. You see just solid statistics all the way across the board. And then we get into some interesting names. Russell Knox, Scottish player, usually plays well on link style courses, and this appears to be an American link style course. So I understand completely why he would pop in this model. Hank Lebioda and Henrik Norlander. Norlander being a Swede. Again, pretty solid statistics all around. Just can't make a putt. Just can't make a putt. And if the greens are fast and firm and lightning, he's going to have a little bit of trouble. From what I've read, and again, I don't know much of anything on this course. I'm going by, what others have posted and other content creators and so forth. The golf course itself is flat, but there are subtle undulations on the greens, and the course was designed that way to add some characteristics, some color to the course. So if there are subtle undulations and lightning fast greens, kind of maybe not to the extent of Augusta like the Masters, but there could be some putting woes that really get put under the magnifying glass. And if that's the case, Henrik Norlander could be in some trouble just because how bad he is at putting. But if it's not like that, if it's even a tour average type putting skill set that's needed, Henrik Norlander is someone to look at. Again, solid statistics all across the board. As long as he just doesn't give away 8,000 strokes on the green, he's going to be pretty good. Roger Sloan was somebody I was pretty high on an outright bet scenario, so I'm definitely looking at him at a DFS slant. Bo Hoag, I did not know this until I watched the broadcast last week. He was a Memorial. He's native to the Ohio area. He kind of pops again. He played really well at the Memorial. A top 15. Gained in strokes everywhere across the board. But you go on a little bit behind that, there's a lot of red. He's lost strokes around the green in, about 7 of the last 9. He's lost in putting 6 of the last 9. His approaches have been pretty good, and that's why he will generally be higher on my radar than others, just because of the strokes gained approach. Off the tee is hit and miss. Tee to greens hit and miss. He had a run there of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 missed cuts in a row from the middle of February to last month, and then he's played 2 events, precisely 2 events since 1 month ago today. Made the cut in both and played really well at the Memorial. So is this an outlier? I don't know. The irons are there. The irons are definitely there. If he can just be average here off the tee, be average around the green, he's an interesting name to look at. Just kind of going loosely down the list. Patton Kazire has been playing very good golf lately. I kind of shy away from Patton Kazire. He's known for playing well in Texas. This could be a very similar style to playing in Texas, but it's pretty well known that Patton Kazire plays very well in Texas, and I'm just going to kind of shy away from that. I kind of want to see him do it continuously, or at least prove it a couple of times outside of Texas before I jump on that bandwagon. Tommy Fleetwood, a lot of European tour success, hasn't translated to America yet. He is an absolute wizard around the greens. He's very, very good. But normally, Tommy Fleetwood is known for his ball striking, his approach, and it has just left him. It has absolutely left him lately. The CJ Cup, I can't even begin to fathom him having lost 7 strokes at the CJ Cup. I know we're going back a couple of years now, but there's a lot of green here. There's a lot of green in here. So something's happened. Something's happened with Tommy Fleetwood's game. If you find the week that he puts it together, you're going to be in for a profitable week and weekend. Is that this week? I will venture, if I had to guess, yes, more so than no. I'm about 51-49 on that, only because he's a Euro, plays links. Seems like an American link style course, and I just believe in the talent. Yes, some things can go wrong quickly. Players can lose it, a la Jordan Spieth and Ricky Fowler. But you see, both of them have come roaring back. Jordan Spieth immensely. And Ricky Fowler's been playing fairly well lately too. So, guys can lose it and guys can find it. Neesmith is somebody who hasn't enjoyed a lot of success. He pops in my models just because of the ball striking. Very good in greens. If you're going to ball strike, you're obviously going to be pretty good in greens and regulation. CT Pan, Brant Snedeker. Garrick Higgo is another name to look out for. A large amount of European success recently, European Tour success recently. He has either won and come in second 3 of the last 4 European Tour events, or he's won twice and come in second. I can't remember. But he's had 3 at least top 2 finishes the past 4 events on the European Tour. He is playing outstanding golf, and he was at the PGA at Kiowa and made the cut. Didn't particularly play that well, but he made the cut at the PGA. That means something. And he putted pretty well on Bermuda. I understand it's just one tournament, and these are statistics that I would not necessarily throw out the window, but I certainly would give very little credence to, small sample size, etc., etc. But you can only use what you have, and he put well on Bermuda greens. We don't know yet how difficult the course, this Congaree golf course, will be. Around the green, he was above field average. So Garrick Higgo is a name to look out for this week and perhaps next week too. Again, I don't want to go all the way down the list. I was a little surprised to see Sung Jae as low as he was in my model. He's just not playing well right now, but like Tommy Fleetwood, I believe in the talent. Sung Jae's game has lost him. Good putting on Bermuda, but with Sung Jae, a lot of pundits in the analytics community will use the term, you're kind of playing whack-a-mole. 1 week, his tee to green is, off the tee to green game is great. His putting lets him down. And then next week, or the week prior, the putting's great, nothing else is there. And then he puts it all together at the PGA and has a top 20. But the week before that, he was okay off the tee, bad everywhere else. So you're just kind of playing whack-a-mole in the sense of, all right, find the week that it's actually going to click, going to work. And if it's this week, he's severely undervalued, I think, even at 16, 18 to 1. Because to me, he's about the 4th or 5th best player in the field. Let's see. No, just not a lot of other, names that kind of jump out as we get lower in my rankings. This feels a lot like an alternate field event. So a lot of times during a major, you'll have these alternate field events, Corrales, Puerto Rico Open, so on and so forth, where the big names are playing in the major, and then others on tour are playing in the smaller tournament. This feels a lot like an alternate field event, minus DJ and Brooks and a couple others. So that's definitely something to consider, is the field quality this week. But that gives you an idea of what I'm kind of looking at statistics wise in the DFS realm. The last thing I will hit on, and I'll have to come over here to this monitor, only because I don't want to give everything on Fantasy National. That's why you should go invest in fantasynational.com. That way you can get this information. You don't have to depend on an idiot like me. You can make your own models and see what's going on and make the models that you use to win. Hopefully I'm providing you with some decent amount of information, but Fantasy National, amazing tool, will always advocate to use it. But on the DFS side, when we talk about chalky versus pivot plays and so on and so forth, there are a few people that are kind of standing out. I'm actually going to switch to my Excel spreadsheet here. That way we can look at pricing as well when we're talking about this. So at the top of the board, let me sort by price. So column B. You'll have to forgive the top 5. Obviously, those are the guys I mentioned that I know aren't playing this week, and there might be others that I haven't found yet. I've been so digging into the data of the actual course and the players. I'll probably take a look at one final look at the field tonight, but this is DraftKings pricing, so things may be different, say at FanDuel or I've heard of Monkey Knife Fight, but whatever DFS site you use, the tactics still apply. Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, Matthew Fitzpatrick, Terrell Hatton. These are the 4 big guns and the 2 big guns, obviously DJ and Brooks. You see my ranking. Oh goodness, you see my rankings for those 2. DJ for me, it would be really hard to justify using even at that ranking, because that just kills so many other options you have. But going into the who looks like who people are playing, the most chalky person right now in the entire field, and he happens to be in this price range, is Terrell Hatton. Projected over 20%. That's a lot. I made kind of a bold prediction that because of the relative lack of quality in the field, that I thought DJ and Brooks would, at least one of them would be in about 75% of team lineups. And I still stand by the thought process behind it, but it's turning out that it's not that high. So now I'm going to I kind of need to readjust. Maybe it's about 50%, and it's actually more Brooks than it is DJ, which kind of surprising to me. I'm not denying the talent of Brooks Koepka. It's more so I have the concern still of the health, the motivation. Is he just trying to get a few competitive reps in before the U.S. Open? Certainly the same could be said for DJ as well. And DJ hasn't been playing as well as Brooks lately. I'm still a little nervous about the health of Brooks Koepka. Now he's going to go out and win in this price range. Hatton over 20, Brooks over 20. Somebody I mentioned a little earlier, Lucas Glover, he is at just right under 20%. Fitzpatrick's high. Then you're starting to go down into the mid-teens. You got Alex Noren, Harold Varner, Harris English, Luke List. A lot of people are on Luke List this week. And if it's a wedge course, I can kind of get there. He cannot putt. And even the distance with these wedges, he's not very good at. So I'm not... Hey, if someone sees something in Luke List and I'm not on it, all the power to you, because that is a definite pivot for me. But I'm just not on Luke List this week. But he's at 15% projected ownership. Hank Lebiota, 15. Sung Jae's at a little under 13. Patton Gazire's at 12. And then we're getting into some true pivots. Yeah, Tommy Fleetwood, who I've talked about a little bit, he's under 12%. DJ, this is surprising to me. DJ's under 10%, at least projected right now. And of course, this is, it can change from now until tomorrow morning when the lineups are due, but it's surprising to only see DJ at a little under 10%. I imagine that number is going to go up, but he's under 10%. Somebody I am really targeting this week is Roger Sloan. Where did he go? I know he was fairly high in my rankings. Oh, he's at 7,000. That's right. I sorted by price. Roger Sloan, 19th in my rankings at 7,000. It's somebody I'm really, really targeting. Where? Let me make sure you all can see. I just had him. There he is. Right here. Sorry. There you go. Roger Sloan. Very good across the board, minus one statistic. And that is his scrambling. Now, that could definitely come back and bite me. Absolutely. But if you're going relatively cheap in a field that lacks a lot of top end talent, I think you can do a lot worse at 7,000 than Roger Sloan. At least, by my rankings, and depending on what you use. Now, if you value the scrambling, the sand saves, distance and such, probably not going to be for you. But I kind of like the way Roger Sloan sets up for this course. And that's why I was considering an outright bet on him, and I didn't make it. I'm probably going to rue that now. But that's somebody I'm targeting. Right under him, Hank Lebiota is another person that's playing very good, playing very, very well right now. At 6,900, that's somebody else I'm considering. So we go back and look at these projected ownerships here. You got DJ at 9%. Roger Sloan's at 7%. I saw Hank Lebiota. We talked about Garrick Higo. He's at 6%. Bo Hoag, 5.3. Russell Knox, 5.3. Oh, seems like a lot of people are on Hank Lebiota. He's projected at 15% ownership right now. I believe this is just DraftKings projected ownership. So, hopefully this helps you come away with some pivots. Whatever, if you're trying to get into the TOC, you're competing against 58,000 entries, you need to differentiate yourself somehow. Hopefully this information will help you do that. You're probably going to have to eat some chalk somewhere. Last week, the chalk you should have ate was Kyle Stanley. For basically minimum, you got a top 20 and pretty good amount of points. You can't really do much better than that if you find a guy basically at minimum and play that well. But this is a little bit of a look at my rankings, brought into an Excel spreadsheet, and let's see. The one last column you all couldn't see there is the proximity 100 to 125. So it's just a combination of the two wedge distances. You'll see a little bit more over here off camera. I wish I could bring that up for you. I'm not very familiar with the software that I use to shrink this and not mess with the web page settings. But I did some rankings. So this is just on a, quote, baseline level for these statistics up here. And then I did a ranking. I'll take you back over to Fantasy National. at Fantasy National, you have all these parameters that you can set. So I did one for Bermuda greens, and it readjusts the rankings for Bermuda greens. I did one for over 7,400 because this is a very long course. So just to give you an idea, let's do the Bermuda. There's the custom model that I used. I didn't change anything else the last 36 rounds. Time frame's the same exact same percentages and stats that I valued. But now it's going to look at just performance on Bermuda greens. And you can see it changed slightly. Dustin Johnson was number 2, now he's number 12. So, I mean, it is real-time updating based on, Bermuda greens. And here, you kind of see Harold Varner is the top of my list for players in the field. Siwoo and Doug Gim are out. Hatton jumps up. Lucas Glover's still there. Russell Knox is fairly high. Brooks is up there. Roger Sloan's up there. So this is why Fantasy National is a great tool. Again, I can't say enough good things about it. I know I've hammered it to go look at it, go invest in it. You absolutely should. But that just gives you an idea of what you were looking at on the far right that I couldn't bring up. So I did a ranking systems for Bermuda for over 7,400 and for both. And that's something I'll just use when I generate my lineups later tonight. But while we're at the web page view, let's look at the wind and at least what it's projected to do, 12 hours out from the start of the tournament. And again, the best I could find, the best, point that Windfinder uses was this Beaufort Marine Corps station, I think. And tomorrow looks fairly benign. You've got steady wind of less than 10. You do have some gusts in the afternoon, 12 to 18, but by tour standards, that's relatively benign. The late crowd or late groupings might have some issue if it's, 8 at steady and 18 gusts. That can make a bit of a difference. But the main thing is it's just hot. It's going to be 95. It's supposed to be 95 there tomorrow. No rain in the forecast, at least for Thursday. And then Friday you come up and the wind's actually picked up. I checked this earlier this morning and it was benign again, and now it's turned up. So you've got a PM split here of some pretty good sustained wind and gusts up to 20. It looks like it could be a little gusty day anyway. Looking at the difference between the average wind speed to the gust, so 10 to 17, not generally that big of a difference. But when you start doing the same amount, 13 to 20, when you start hitting 20 mile an hour gusts, that can really affect certain players, particularly those with high ball flight. And that's why link style feels like it'll work great, because if you're playing link style, you're generally keeping it low and running it up where the wind has a lot less of a factor. So if you're looking at if you're really wanting to get detailed into, say, targeting an AM PM split, based on this, it looks like the AM, even though it's the better half per se for Thursday, it's not better by a lot than the PM for Thursday. But if you come to Friday, it looks like the wind's gonna pick up. It's gonna be gusty. It's supposed to be really hot on Friday, close to 100. But it looks like the AM PM splits are slightly disadvantaged. So if you want to make a few lineups that focus on the better half of the draw, I would do a PM AM. So afternoon Thursday rounds and then morning Friday rounds. If that's if you put any value into that. And actually, let's take a look at the leaderboard and see who some of those people might be, just to kind of get a feel for it, who the PM and then AM are. So in the Thursday PM, Camilo Villegas kind of popped in my models. John Heinrich Norlander, Alex Noren, Terrell Hatton. That's a big thing. Matthew Fitzpatrick, Brooks Koepka, Jason Duffner, Harris English. So Harold Varner. There looks like to be a pretty good amount of chalky play. Vincent Whaley in the PM AM, and that looks like it's going to be the better half of the draw. 12 hours away from the tournament, things can change. Garrett Kigo. So yeah. Oh, Roger Sloan. Told you I'm pretty high on Roger Sloan. He's in the PM AM split. Let's go. So yeah. Again, how much weight you should put into that, that's up to you. I put a little into it, not a lot, especially since it's not overly drastic, at least for Thursday, Friday. Saturday looks fun in the morning. That's the word we'll use. I mean, they don't go and play at 5 a.m., but 8 a.m., you got steady wind at 9 and gusting up to 24. That's a pretty big difference. Hot, again, 97 for Saturday, with a little bit of rain. Looks like coming in Saturday night, so maybe that softens the course up for Sunday. I don't know. Depends on how they want to set it up. But Saturday morning could really, really mess with some people, or maybe help people if they, or help some players if they, play better in the wind. And then Sunday looks just immaculate, just perfect weather Sunday. High of 88. Looks like some rain in the it could be some rain in the forecast, but no wind. Sunday looks like it's going to be a good championship Sunday. So what that tells me, if there is a lean, I would go PM AM, but I wouldn't put all of your lineups like that for sure. But if you want to hedge a little bit, that's the way I would go. And then I think the last portion I'm going to get into this evening, I'm going to close this. I'll come back to what I did Sunday night, and that is I'm not going to try to go through every hole. I'll probably end up will, but we went through a hole by hole satellite overview. And the reason why I thought this was a wedge player's course is that there looked like a lot of forced layups, which then put wedges in your hand, or true 3-shot par 5s. And so I made a little bit of it's hard to see. I'm not expecting you to read that, but I'll kind of go through it hole by hole. What they're saying is the approximate yardage for approach shots given a drive in the fairway. So hole 1 looks fairly straightforward, dogleg left, 138 in on an approach shot if you hit a 300-yard drive. So some guys will hit 300, some guys will hit over 300, but generally speaking, I'm going to use 300 as the baseline for a drive that is in the fairway. So 138 for hole 1, and this is why I'm calling it a wedge course, because you'll see a common theme. Hole 2, I think the bigger hitters will probably be able to get there in 2, given a 300-yard drive that leaves you with 270-ish in, depending on the wind. If it's downwind, yeah, some guys, maybe half the field will be able to get there, but if not, you're looking at 300 to 185 to 95, and again, this number is subjective to the player, what yardage they like, but you got 138 on hole 1 and then an estimated 95 on hole 2. Hole 3, forced Well, this is a risk reward hole. If you go for the green in one, you can make it. Seems like it would be an eagle opportunity. If you decide to take the quote conservative route, lay up, and then hit a wedge, it's 80. So you've got two already inside 100 yards. Long par 5. This is the true three-shotter. So you just had a risk reward par 4, followed up by essentially a 650-yard par 5. And they even go 310 here. So 310 to 225, and it still leaves you 112 out. Depending on the wind, if it's downwind, maybe the longest of long hitters can get there. But this is a great design of a hole, because you've got water on the right, which will catch any attempt going for the green in 2 that gets wayward, and you won't really be able to run it up, as it looks like there's a bunker that protects the front of the green. So if you're going for it, you have to either, if you want to get completely ballsy, try to run it through this area, which I don't think anyone would ever recommend. So you're either going left or trying to carry this bunker and then stop it on the green. It does not seem like a smart play, not one that I would make, but there's a reason I'm talking to you and not playing. So, but it looks like this is a true 3-shot par 5, 310 to again another subjective number to a smaller number, and that'll vary player by player what yardage they prefer. But you've had 2 under 100, and now 2, 100 to 150, but I call it 100 to 125 because the first one was about 138. Par 3, 165. That's not a wedge. It's just a par 3. It's a great hole though. You got to carry the water. It'll be interesting if they tuck the pin in the front there. Flirt with water versus getting it close to the. That's a fun design hole. Hole 6, long par 4. And this is why I think it's a wedge course, to be completely honest, given a 315-yard drive. So let's dial that back and give the average of 300. If you go 300 here, that leaves you with 222 in. All right? These guys are professionals. They can hit 222-yard approach shots. But if they get a little wayward, you're either in the bunker or you're in this runoff area that I've read is, it's not fairway cut, it's close, very tightly mown. So you're going to want people that can scramble. You're going to want people that are good with wedges. Some guys, if it's really tightly cut, some guys might just putt it. And that's where I will undervalue those guys because I'm only putting it 5%. Maybe you take the putter on some of these shots and the good putters will rise to the top. We'll just have to see. But if you get a little wayward, it's 222, then you're going to be left, if you're wayward, maybe 20 to 30 yards. So, again, another wedge. And, guys that maybe don't necessarily carry at 222, maybe they hit at 180 and try to run it up. I'll probably end up going through all this. Hole 7, again, wonderfully designed par 3. Got to carry the water if it's a front bunker or a front pin location. If it's tucked over here to the left, you got to draw it in and not mess with this sandy waste area. It's just a fun little hole. 192 yards is what it says. Hole 8, another seemingly 3-shot par 5. You got if you go 300, well, I'll give this one 10 instead of taking away 15. You give 10, so you 300 to what's that? 185 and 61 is about 245. So most guys will probably be able to hit 245, but if you're a little wayward, these greens, they look small by satellite. I don't know if they are or not. And they mentioned the undulation. Sounds like you're going to have to hit the correct plateau or, tier or bowl or however you want to phrase that. But on this hole, if you're a little right, you're catching the waist area. A little left, you're in that closely mown area. So the guys that go real conservative, they're left with 61 or, yard, whatever their preferred very short flip wedge is. So again, another wedge for those who go conservative. And it looks like this hole and a lot of the holes out here might force you to play a bit more conservative. Hole 9, long par 4. And this again is giving them 320. So I'll use the 300 baseline. That gives you a 212-yard approach shot that has to be precise. You can't go right for obvious reasons. If you do, I mean, left is this sandy waste area. It's just a precise approach shot, and this is why I'm always going to value the ball strikers, not just because of this hole, but a lot of times you're just going to want a precise ball striker. This is that right there. Although there is a little bit of room here that players that can run it up, not knowing anything about contour of the course, it would be really fun if this sloped towards the water. That way you took that little bit. I don't know. That would be fun. It would suck for me. It would be fun to watch the pros deal with that. But a precise approach shot needed there. Hole 10 to par 3, 203 yards over a waste area, natural waste area, which probably won't come into play. And these are pros. I'm absolutely there if I'm playing this course. Hole 11. Narrow driving window from what I understand. 300-yard drive to a 186 approach shot. So this is more of your typical PGA Tour setup where you have a mid-iron in as opposed to a wedge. But this right here, this is why I valued some fairways gained. You got to have some accuracy on a hole like this, at least by satellite. Maybe this thing is, maybe this thing's wide, but it seems like it's a pretty narrow visual teeing area there to an opened up fairway. Again, another par 5 that appears to be, could be wrong, appears to be a 3-shotter. 300-yard drive to 280 if you're going to go for it in 2. And while there is no water trouble, you have a very skinny front neck to negotiate, or you're in sand or native area. So I imagine the guys that don't think they can run it through a tight window there are going to lay up, hence giving you another wedge in. 13, more of your prototypical PGA Tour hole, par 4 hole layout, 300 to a 158 in. Not really a wedge hole there. 14. This hole I can't wait to see. This is a par 3 of 250 yards. If it is into the wind, there are going to be drivers on a par 3 that might not make the green. My guess, and again, this is pure speculation. I don't know anything about the course. Don't know anything about the topography. I imagine this is downhill. This water does not come into play for the pros. It looks like a narrow but long green. So I imagine undulation probably plays into this green quite a bit. So you're going to have to, depending on the flag, you might have to try to hit the correct tier. I'm really interested to see what this hole is, not actually visually as opposed to a satellite image. Hole 15, a forced layup. Maybe not forced, but it's 368 total yards. I mean, if you're with the wind, maybe Desham's not here, but a Desham or a DJ or a Rory, would maybe think about trying to cut this with the wind, but I don't get there. So again, lay up to a wedge. Sorry, always get it right. 16, straightaway par 4. You still, given 300, you still only 134 in. That's usually a wedge. The straightaway par 4 there. Come on. 17 looks interesting. 540-yard par 4. 300. Well, this says 310, but let's do the baseline 300. Leaves you 239 in. That's a long iron approach shot that requires you to be fairly precise. You can't go left. You get too wayward right, you're in the same stuff. So you got to be pretty precise. The bailout here, the miss here is short, which again is going to leave you another wedge in hand. That's why I keep harping on that. I think this is a wedge course, but certainly, guys, you could value some long iron hit. You know, the good long iron hitters, and that would work on this hole. But I still see this as a wedge course. And then hole 18 looks like a fun finishing hole for sure. 413 yards, so this isn't drivable. Depending on how risky players want to get, maybe they try to cut this area here. I don't understand why you would, but maybe they try. But you hit it to about 270 to 290, even 300, leaves you a 120, 110, 130 wedge in. So that is a second look at the hole by hole. And I showed you this a bit earlier. There are 5 holes where it is an approximated under 100 yards by these numbers. Even. That's not even counting the errant tee shots, the scrambling that would be needed when players don't hit the green. So 5 holes where an under 100 yard shot is projected to be needed. That is why I valued that, the 75 to 100. Lucas Glover, Roger Sloan, DJ, guys that I've talked about, and why I'm higher on them this week. And then of the others, let's see, 4. So there are about 5 more holes that fall into the 100, I will say 100 to 135 range. Again, more wedges that are just longer wedges in. Roger Sloan, Brooks, Ben On, who we didn't talk about, and I don't like talking about Ben On because he can't putt. He can't hit an iron right now. He used to be pretty good with the irons, but he's never been a good putter. And now he's not hitting fairways or greens. Just no thanks. Tommy Fleetwood, we talked about a little bit. Snedeker's up there. So those are the types of players that you want on those holes. There were 3 that were realistically you're not going to use these 2 distances. So that is my reasoning for thinking this is a wedge course, even though it's 7,700 yards. And that's another great thing about Fantasy National. I still have the Bermuda filter put on for those stats. Just to give you a look, I'm going to do over 7,400. Hopefully you all can see that. Nope, it gets cut off. It's right underneath the screen here. So I'm doing over 7,400 yards on Bermuda. And I know the results, but I'm going to show you all as the final part of this video. Charlie Hoffman, who's not playing. Kyle Stanley, who's not playing. Doug Gim, who's not playing. Then Glover, Fleetwood, DJ. I talked about because I want to see it for more outside of Texas before I go there. But those are the top 3 of the people that are in, and then 3 people who aren't playing this week. So anyway, I believe that is going to wrap up the DFS Tactics Calls show. Remember to smash that like button, subscribe, comment below. What are you valuing? Who you think is going to play well this week? Let me know how you do. Good luck in all your contests and outright betting. I ended up not making any bets. I was pretty upfront that I wanted to save a good amount of money for the U.S. Open next week. If I would have bet, just so it's on record, I would have done Roger Sloan as a long shot winner. He was 150 Sunday night. By the time I had gotten back to looking at it, he was down to 125. Not, it's certainly still long shot odds. I would have done Tommy Fleetwood at 25 to 1, and I would have done, who's the other one? Oh, Vincent Whaley. He was 100 to 1 at Sunday evening, maybe even the Monday evening. He's all the way down to 75 and maybe even less. So I just didn't want to take that price cut on Vincent Whaley. But with that said, that will be this episode or show of Calls. Let me get through to my software, and until next time, may all your bets be profitable.